We just got absolutely drenched out here in Miami. We had this huge torrential downpour today, and like I told you guys before, I knew this day would come at some point where I need to try to fight the rain. So we're gonna be doing things a little bit differently today. I parked in this area that you guys have seen once before, but there's a lot of trees nearby, so I can kind of run for cover if it starts pouring again, because it says it might rain some more still, and it was like rain, like pouring. So lots of flooded streets around here right now, and I can just run back to the car or whatever if necessary to take a break. But honestly guys, I don't mind about getting wet. I don't care about doing the videos in the rain. The phone is basically waterproof, but the microphone's not. And there's really no easy way to solve that problem. So we just gotta work around these technological barriers for now until they invent waterproof microphones for Michael to be out doing the videos. Now guys, one of the biggest things I hear all the time from people in the comments is that we have a ton of people that bought over the past couple of years that got 3% interest rates, 3.5%, 2.7%, whatever, and they bought the house, you know, they've appreciated in value since then. Why would anyone like that ever want to sell? Like, what motivation or incentive do they have to sell? And for some of them, there's none. Some of them are going to be smart. They're going to hold on to those properties and accumulate a ton of equity and just keep them for as long as possible. And it'll be a great hedge against inflation for them. It'll be a great investment in the long term, if you want to call it that. Not everybody bought a cash flowing property. A lot of these people bought primary residences. But we're going to talk about who might need to actually sell in this rising interest rate, rising inflationary environment right now, because I was able to think of quite a few examples of people who may need to sell in the near future or want to sell, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about right now. Now, the first one and most obvious one that came to mind to me being here in Miami and Florida in general is remote workers. Okay, Florida had a ton of people move here over the past couple years that were allowed to remote work from California, from New York, from Massachusetts, from Illinois, from wherever, guys. And they got to keep their large salaries and buy real estate here that was relatively affordable back then. But now that many companies are requiring a lot of their employees to come back into the office at least a couple days a week, well, a lot of those people that bought are gonna be selling because they don't, and let's put this out there right at the beginning, not everybody wants to or can become a landlord. So that's really important, okay? Because of a lot of reasons. Like, some people just don't know how to be a landlord. They don't want the hassle of dealing with tenants and hiring a property manager, or even worse, dealing with it on their own. Or even if they want to, in some cases, depending on how much they paid and what their home payment is and what the rent is, they might not even be able to cash flow the property, which would be another reason why somebody may not turn the place into a rental. So there are reasons why people would not rent, guys. So just remember that. It's not like everyone is going to just turn their place into a rental and, you know, they're never going to sell it. It doesn't work like that. So the remote workers could be the first ones to be looking to sell properties they recently accumulated in other states, like Florida, for example, that need to go back to their home state. Took off the sunglasses today too, since it's not quite as bright out here, so that way you guys can actually see I'm a real person. I have eyeballs. Now, the next person who may need to sell very soon is people who actually borrowed too much against their home because they had a lot of gains in equity over the past couple years. They may be looking to sell real soon in order to prevent going into foreclosure or to avoid a short sale situation, because a lot of people have been using their homes as a piggy bank and basically using that to live off of, guys, in times where basically, you know, everyone's home went up in value and everyone has some equity to gain. But if you took too much of it out, you took a home equity line of credit and you took a home equity loan, or maybe you took a second mortgage to put your kid through college, whatever, and now we see home equity values starting to go down, Well, they could be the first ones looking to sell in an environment like this in order to avoid going into foreclosure, because obviously it's better to sell now, even if it's at a small loss. That's much better than going into foreclosure, especially for your credit, because then you're basically doomed for the next 7 years. So that's what most people are going to be doing if they find themselves in this situation. Now, the next person who might sell or even just walk away from their property is somebody who put a very low down payment. Think of FHA, where it's only 3.5% down or 5% down, or some people only put 10% down for a regular conventional mortgage on a regular house. And now that average equity values have already dropped by 5% and much more than that, in depending on which metro you're in, guys, people like that could easily be looking at selling right now because they didn't have much skin in the game to begin with when it came to their down payment, and now they're already underwater on their mortgage, and that scares a lot of people. When people go underwater on their mortgage, it makes them freak out and kind of panic and think that they should sell. But in reality, if you are one of these people and you can still afford the payment and you're not at risk of losing a job, or let's say you're a couple and one of you can still make the payment, then I don't advise panic selling in that situation, guys. You can hang on to the property and still be okay for a while, even if you do go underwater. As long as you can make your house payment, that's the important thing. But a lot of people won't hear this message. They're still going to sell out of panic, out of desperation, or some people who put a very low down payment and now they're underwater, they might think it's easier just to walk away from this place and not take the risk of, hanging on to the falling asset price, so to speak. The next potential seller in this market right now is somebody that has a second home or a vacation home that sits empty for most of the year and they just use it at their leisure. Well, a lot of these people are well-off, white-collar people, but a lot of them end up living paycheck to paycheck if they're not smart with their money. The second home could be the first thing to go as times get tough and people maybe lose a job or get a pay cut or something like this happens to them, and they'll be the first ones to unload that vacation home or their second home, mainly for the fact that they need their primary residence to live in, but they don't need that vacation home. So it'd be the first one on the chopping block. I remember when all these townhouses right here were selling for like $700,000-800,000. Now all of them are like 1.5 million and up. Here's the next thing. A lot of people that recently bought, even if they got an amazing deal on the house and got a good interest rate and all of this, well, one thing a lot of people did not anticipate, which has happened to me and it's going to happen to a lot of you who did buy, that you're going to have these massive increases coming in property taxes, okay? So people are getting these big property tax hikes. There's HOA fees going up if you own a condo or live in a townhouse, something like that. On top of that, insurance rates are going up through the roof, especially here in Florida, but I've heard from you guys that it's going up in other coastal states like Texas and Louisiana. Places like that too are also getting big increases in insurance rates as well. So this can easily turn a property that was once affordable just a few months ago into something that's totally unaffordable. Because imagine your HOA fee goes up $200, your insurance goes up $2,000 a year, and then your property taxes go up another $4,000 or $5,000. All of a sudden, guys, you're paying an extra $600-700 a month. I mean, can you afford that much of an increase on your payment? Some people can't, and they may end up needing to sell their property because of that. Now this one is a tried and true one and happens all the time, guys. There's a divorce, there's a death in the family. These things happen all the time and people need to sell properties because of this, especially here in Florida. There's always a ton of estate sales because there's a ton of retirees that move here or have second homes here, and then they pass away and that home needs to be sold. Even right now, as prices are going down, as interest rates are up, it doesn't matter. Like we've talked about already, business moves, guys. Life happens no matter what anyone else is doing, and these things need to get sold because a lot of times people who inherit these properties don't want them or can't afford them, and they just have to get sold. Same thing goes for a divorce. You know, you might not have a choice unless you decide to buy out your spouse. A lot of times the judge will order that you guys sell the house and split the proceeds, whether you like it or not, unless you can come to an agreement on your own. So there's that as well. You don't have a choice in the matter what the market's doing. The next potential seller is a regular person who just unfortunately gets laid off right now, because I know some of you guys have gotten laid off, and there are more layoffs coming by the end of this year. That's what a lot of corporations have announced, that this is going to happen, guys. And with the average American savings rate being only at around 5% right now, which is extremely low, and a lot of people can't afford a $600 emergency, well, how are they going to make their house payment if they can't even afford a $600 emergency and the savings account's already basically empty? So you do the math on that one. There's another situation though, where because people have a lot of equity in many cases, unless you just bought at the beginning of this year, then you might not. Even people that have that high equity are gonna have a chance, hopefully, to sell before they actually get themselves into a foreclosure or short sale situation. But those financial pressures do put that extra motivation for people to get up and sell right now while the getting's still good, and before they completely lose the house and are in big trouble. So keep that in mind too. And we certainly can't forget about all of the brand new buyers that have buyer's remorse, guys. This is a real thing, and I know it sounds like a really stupid reason to sell, but people work off of emotions, okay? Not every decision is a logical or a completely sound financial one, and this buyer's remorse situation is the perfect example of that, okay? You're gonna see people listing their homes for sale that feel like, you know, they really don't like the neighborhood after living there for the last 6 months to a year. They kind of regret that, or maybe the house doesn't quite fit all their needs because they just jumped into it a little bit too fast, and they're like, you know what, let's get out of this now while we still can, while we're not gonna, you know, lose our hats on this. And you know, even if we take a little bit of a loss, it's better than being stuck with a house that we hate or is in a location that we hate. So I think you're going to see a lot of that coming too. Another one that sounds completely silly, but it's totally true, guys, is people just can't sit still in many cases. Like, I personally know people that need to move every like 3 to 5 years because they just can't sit still and they don't want to live in the same place for too long. But some of them are crazy and they think they can always, you know, ride the market up, and they think they're always going to be able to trade up to a different house after just a few years and get something better. And people may still be trying to do that right now. And in one of my recent videos, one of my viewers mentioned in the comments this, guys, they have a real life situation of somebody that decided to sell right now even though they didn't make a fortune. They moved from California to Utah. They bought a house for about $700,000 in Utah, and they recently sold it for $725,000 because they missed their family to death and thought they could just do the commute back and forth from Utah to California. But they said, this is too much, this is too stressful on us emotionally especially, let's get rid of this place and move back to California. And that's exactly what they did. Now you might say, well, they came out 25 grand ahead. Well, they probably didn't, guys. After document stamps, after closing costs, after real estate commissions, they probably lost a little bit of money. Probably not a lot, but you know, enough to take a small loss, but it was probably worth it for them to end up going back home and being with their family. So people will do anything for their families and loved ones, including taking a loss on real estate. So remember that, guys. And another one that we completely cannot forget about are flippers. Flippers are in big trouble right now, especially here in Florida. We see people on the west coast of Florida that are trying to flip properties all day long, guys. They're buying a place for $400, relisting it for $450, and this is happening all over the country, not just in Florida. But these guys, especially if they bought too many or they've been holding onto the property for too long, you bet they're going to be lowering prices and trying to get rid of those properties to at least further decrease their losses, because obviously in the flipping business, the longer you hold on to the property, the less money you're going to make. So that's problematic for people, and the flippers are not in a great position right now. You see this whole area right here where I'm walking has a ton of trees, so I can just dart under here in case it starts raining. Right now we just got a light drizzle going on, and it looks like I might be able to at least finish this video, luckily, without getting poured on out here. Now guys, we already acknowledged the fact that some of these people who are going to be selling for financial reasons because they have to, not because they want to. They're in a pickle for some reason or another. And I wanted to talk about this situation where American credit card debt keeps rising even as interest rates keep rising. Now, this is a huge problem for, the most obvious reason being, as the interest rate hikes keep going up, the credit card interest rates keep going up as well. So if you're someone carrying a balance right now on a credit card, this is like the worst position to be in, and it's just going to make it harder and harder to get out of debt as these interest rate hikes keep coming, guys, and they're going to keep coming indefinitely for the foreseeable future. So if you're going further into credit card debt right now, this is like a terrible idea. Just in July alone, revolving credit card debt went up 11.6%, and that brings us to about 1.13 trillion in credit card debt across the nation right now. So that is an insane amount of credit card debt. But in the second quarter of 2022, guys, it increased an additional 46 billion. That's just the amount that it increased by in the second quarter. So that's only 3 months, guys. It went up by $46 billion. I mean, that's a ton of money that people are just putting on the credit card right now. And why are they doing this? Well, it's because of inflation. It's because the cost of living has become unsustainable. And just like I mentioned, a lot of people might be turning to home equity right now to have some extra spending money. People that don't have that home equity, like renters especially, or people that are living in poverty, they turn to credit cards in times like this. And even well-off people do this who are living paycheck to paycheck. You see stats like, 30% of people making $250K a year are living paycheck to paycheck, and they are these people who are pulling home equity and maxing out credit cards to maintain that luxurious lifestyle, because people who are doing this are obviously the big spenders that need to have it all to feel happy in life. And then you have other people that are just borrowing all this money against their credit cards just to stay afloat, just to be able to afford groceries and gas and the next rent payment. So it's really sad that that's what it's coming down to for so many people. So you need to try to get out of this, guys. Do your best. If you have your credit cards, at least stop using them if you can, and stop paying interest on them. Do a balance transfer to another brand new credit card and take that 3% hit, and you pay that one-time fee, but then you'll get like 12, 16, 18 months to pay 0% interest, and hopefully you can get out of it that way. I mean, when I racked up credit card debt when I was younger, when I was 18 years old, that's how I had to get out of it. I kept rolling the balance over to a 0% card and paying off as much as I could every single month, simultaneously not using the cards until they were completely paid off. And now when I use my credit cards, I pay off the entire balance every month, and I just use it to get the points. So if you're doing that and you're listening to this, then obviously you're using the credit card smart, but not everybody has the opportunity to do that. So you just got to be careful with this one. I'm walking on the golf course here, and it's like a sponge. It's like so soaking wet. Just to show you guys how much rain we got. And this all fell just in a couple hours. Look at these puddles out here. Those aren't pond and water traps in the golf course, guys. Those are rain puddles from all this rain we just got hit with here. And I don't know if you can see, but it is still kind of drizzling out here, but it's not such a big deal. But just a ton of rain in just a few short hours. But we haven't been getting any rain this summer. It's been such a dry summer, and we needed this rain. I'm glad we ended up getting it. And I'm glad I could get out here and shoot this video for you guys in between the torrential downpours. If you guys enjoyed this video and you found it entertaining, please subscribe to the channel. Check out my next video on the screen right over here, and I'll catch you over in the next one.